What's up? I'm Sam with InnerAnimal,
I'm Elle Kramer with What the Elle.
and we're going to show you a little bit about gym culture, a lot about life. Let's go.
It's Elle Kramer, and today I have my friend Sam with me. And Sam, tell me, before we start just hopping in right into the gym culture, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So about 6.5 years ago, I got into a devastating motorcycle accident right out of high school. Ended up paralyzed by the chest level down, and the doctors predicted this to be a permanent outcome, to just learn how to live a great life in a wheelchair, which I have, but from the beginning, I have not accepted that fate. So thankfully, through a lot of resilience, hard work, answered prayers, I'm starting to see some really crazy progress, and that's starting to catch a lot of local attention. So hopefully I could use my journey and help inspire and lead others and just show them the power of resilience and hard work.
So you just said, you started with being able to be paralyzed, and then you're now seeing progress. Tell me about the progress that you're seeing. What have you done in order to get where you are right now?
So when I had started this journey, I was only able to actually do nothing. It was just uncontrollable spasms, and it was honestly more aggravating than helpful for anything. Thankfully, through the help of therapy and stem cells, I've been able to come a long way. Today we did 350 something feet. So not too bad.
Look at you go.
It don't look pretty, but it's progress.
Oh, okay. So now that we talked about that, I kind of just want to start off by telling you started in the gym before you had your accident?
No, I was just naturally athletic. So I would play sports. I played soccer, track, football. I wasn't the best at them because I didn't take the work required off the field to get great. But I just genetically inclined, I guess. So took that for granted. After my accident, it's I had no other choice but to get stronger to be able to live a normal everyday life and still function and have a good one. So my buddy Nick had just gotten into the gym, and he's like, dude, look, come check it out. It'll change your life. And I'm like, whatever. I was reluctant, but I went, and I hated it. At first, I stuck out like a sore thumb. I had extreme body dysmorphia and just really hated the way I looked and felt as a person. I didn't see the Sam that I recognized in the mirror. So through the gym and just constantly going in there, putting in the reps, breaking it down and rebuilding, I learned a lot about life, a lot about my body, a lot about possibilities and mindset and mentality. And with that, I would to be able to use it, the information and tips I've found helpful, and help give that to others, because I've been in some dark trenches and I don't want anyone else to have to face that alone.
Yeah. So going back to your gym journey, can you share a specific moment that really stood out to you that was a pivotal moment in your journey for you?
I think the most pivotal point in my journey was definitely whenever I got the call that my insurance was dropping therapy. Due to not seeing enough progress, the therapist had kind of concluded they got me where they needed to get me, and my insurance wasn't willing to continue the therapy to get me walking. And at this point, I had no mobility out of my legs or anything. I didn't know how to turn them on unless there was electrocution, like the electric pad.
Oh.
It's okay. Shock pad therapy.
I was wait.
So anyway, whenever I got to that point and the therapist gave me that phone call, it's I had hit rock bottom. I was screaming out to God, why would you do this to me? If you're such a great God, why would you even put me in this predicament, put this weight on me? But little did I realize what would come from that and just the growth it's made me go through. And so I was at a real, and I went to the best person, I thought, and for guidance. I was extremely suicidal, and I was scared of what my future looked like. So thankfully, my buddy Nathan, who's a paralyzed bodybuilder, he was able to kind of give me some guidance and some on life, and just he was able to help me restore the faith and belief in myself and my ability. It completely reshifted the way I live, the way I'm, my output.
So before that time period, were you living in a life that was content for you, or were you just feeling helpless every single day? What was that like for you?
Before that moment leading
before
up?
you had your insurance dropped.
So even whenever I was going to therapy, I was in a real weird place because I just come home with a new body. My friends, they still wanted to include me as much as they could, but it was just obviously not the same. It was hard. It was different. So it was kind of like wanting to be an introvert, completely changed the way I was, my personality. And it really made me despise what I'd become and blame circumstances or I like to blame things out of my control for the circumstances. But in reality, it was my choice to get on the bike, my choice to go and ride it home, and my choice to end up in a wheelchair, I guess. So I've been in some weird places, but a lot more of depressional phase before I got into that point. But thankfully, with the guidance of my new friends from the gym culture around me, they were able to help me kind of redefine my life. I enrolled in school because I could no longer do my occupation I was doing at the time.
What was it?
I did landscaping, roof work. I did all kind of like
Little hustles.
labor jobs,
Okay.
like cash paying labor jobs. Because I was 17, graduated high school. I was freaking making that money, my $8 an hour, but I would rack up 9-hour weeks. So I'm like, well, I'm getting paid. I wasn't getting shit. But
It'd be like that.
so whenever I'd finally come home, got settled in, and realized what my life was now, I had to figure out how to reconstruct it. I was like, well, I would like to be financially independent. I would like to be able to take care of my own weight. So to do that, I was like, man, how do I make money? Well, I decided to go to school for a program called AutoCAD, which allows you to draw like blueprints and stuff on houses and whatever projects. My intention was, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna become basically an architect. Not how that works. They were like, oh yeah, so you're gonna have to do another 6 years of school. And I was like, whoa, that's not the move. It just so happened that towards the end of my last semester, like we were leading up a couple weeks into graduation, I'd stumbled upon stem cells. And I saw the cost. I saw the risk to reward ratio was iffy at best, but it was a shot, so I took it. And I was talking to my classmates, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go get this job and, getting $60,000 a year or whatever it was. And I'm like, man, I can't work 8-hour days every single day, work 6 hours every day on just my body, my upkeep, the gym, whatever. Take all this money in order to have that excess in order to do these type of procedures and these type of therapies. So I was like, what do I do? So at this time, people were starting to get extremely motivated. So around this point in my journey, people were getting extremely motivated. And I kind of took that and said, well, what can I do with that? And at the time, I'd started my Instagram, videos, and it was really more to
Motivate yourself?
Yeah, it was kind of like to that body dysmorphia in whatever way. Like, regardless how I looked, I was like, okay, at least if it's providing someone either, some or some tips, it felt cool. And like they could judge all they wanted to. I was learning, so I wanted to help others. Mm-hmm. And what that did with a combination of being in school, going to therapy until they dropped it, doing all this, I was just at the gym relentlessly, learning about fitness and my body because I had to rebuild it essentially. It started to inspire a lot of the locals all around me. They're like, dude, you're a freaking maniac in here all the time. You must live here. It's like, no, but I do work here and I do work out here and blah, blah, blah. The gym was my church. It was my safe space away from my layer of a room that I gave it at the time.
So I really liked what you said about all of that, but something that really stood out to me was you talking about your body image and like body dysmorphia, which is something that I think a lot of people, especially me, like I've really struggled with body dysmorphia my entire life, it feels like. And just tell me a little bit more of your experience about that. What was your body image like?
So my body image was already in the gutter right out of the hospital. It's like I was in denial. Just looking in the mirror and seeing what I saw, it's like, that's not me. That's not the Sam I know. But thankfully, that's not the Sam I know. It was honestly just upsetting. It was frustrating. It was infuriating because I was looking at a body that I had built, not by design, but it was by choice. And it was a choice that I now had to live with. So it was like facing a brick wall and not knowing how to get around it or over it. So I was trying to go through it, but I just come right into the brick wall. And mentally, that just kind of really made me hate the life I was living even more. Besides the discomfort and the pain that comes with it, it was like, I have to look at this. I have to be this guy. Like, I just didn't like it.
So before the accident, did you have a good relationship with your body?
I mean, yes, I guess so. It was kind of a body I just took for granted. I flaunted it more than I guess I even had the right to, but I was just like, yeah,
You have the
six
right
pack.
to do whatever you
It's
want.
like, dude, I weigh 120 pounds. Yeah, you have a six pack. It's your stomach.
It's your bones.
But yeah, I was skin and bones my whole life, and I have older brothers and cousins, and I was always the runt of the litter. So I just kind of like, I was small but mighty. I was like, whatever. I'm the runt. I'll be the mightiest. So that's kind of what my mindset always was towards my image.
So after you got home, moving into a different direction, I know we said we were going to talk about gym culture, but I
Go with
still
what you're-
have a
yeah.
few other things that I want to ask you.
Let's roll, bud.
What was like the adjustment with your family? Like I know you mentioned what the adjustment was with your friends, and how did your family respond to like what was going on? I'm sure that they were like, probably it was really hard for them to see that you were like having to go through this, of course, but like how did that change at home? Like what did
It was a bomb, basically. It's like it completely redesigned the way that my family infrastructure was, I guess. At the time, I was hot-headed, young, 17 and stubborn, so I was always fighting with my parents. I just graduated school, and like I said, I was working my butt off, had a little bit of money, so I just thought that I knew better and that I would just move out and do my own thing. So going into the rec, our relationship was rocky to say the best. But thankfully to my mom, she kind of, wouldn't let me just fly off like a free bird. So actually I was going home. Yeah, it was rocky. I had literally just moved out probably 2 months ago prior to the accident because when I got into a fight, thought I knew better. And so I was arrogant enough to just move out. And the friend I ended up living with, they were in the street bike. So I was like, hey man, he let me use it for transportation to get to work. And once you get in your first cop chase, you kind of get that bug,
Adrenaline rush.
that adrenaline rush for sure. But my parents, my entire family completely stepped up to the plate when and where I needed them the most. I mean, whenever I was right out of the hospital, my grandfather would be driving me from, he'd come 30 minutes from where he lived, bringing me to school, to therapy, everything, because, he's retired and my parents had to work to pay for everything. My dad had some really awesome friends. They were able to build a ramp. By the time I got home, I had, my little ramp. So that was that sucked trying to figure out how to go up that ramp. One time I had to drag myself up the ramp. Another story. But like
Love
just
to hear
my
that.
family as a whole completely stepped up. And obviously I was weak and they were hurt. But I think my mentality at the beginning hurt them a lot more because I would often reflect my pain on everyone else around me, and they're the ones around me the most. So they got the shit of that stick, but they were, they loved me regardless. So it really taught me something about unconditional love for sure.
our negative feelings towards ourselves and projected onto others. And
1,000%.
yeah, and I see this in all types of relationships, not just dating relationships, family relationships, all dynamics and across the board. So I want to talk about whenever you started gaining traction and getting attention from people. I want to hear your opinion on, did you notice a energy switch to people who did people switch up? Whenever you, I don't want to say had a glow up, but whenever people started noticing you more, did people have a different?
Honestly, since the accident, people completely acted different. So before I was real arrogant and didn't like to accept outside help, super short-tempered and just a hard person to deal with. So people around me often reflected that. But after I got in the wheelchair, I had no choice but I kind of felt hopeless at the time. But around me, they didn't give me an option because I needed help. It's I can't go off on somebody for opening the door when I would have struggled for 20 minutes to open it, or getting in and out the wheelchair. And after the accident, I was humbled significantly just accepting outside help. And once I did, and I understood what it felt like to need help and receive it, and I know that whenever I'm able to help others, I know that they are getting that feeling too, or something similar. So it flipped my and being from self-centered and arrogant to more of not self-centered and arrogant.
What was that feeling that you had of helplessness? Going from being this living a fast life, kind of
Getting 3 likes with just my grandpa being one of them. Honestly, that the content side of it made things super difficult for me it was really discouraging more than anything. And but people at first, I guess they would kind of, I've heard things of people, making jokes or some remarks. Oh, it's like, yeah, a guy in a wheelchair that's doing workouts. Yeah, I'm videoing myself. What about it? They would never come talk to me because I'm big dog. No, not really. I don't know why they wouldn't talk to me. If you don't want me to record with you, let me know. I'll blur you out. No one wants you in the video anyway. Sorry.
Damn.
But I
Fires.
can't control everything. So I don't control what's out of my control. So if your feelings are hurt, that's out of my control. Anyway, back to you, Elle.
Anyway, how did your injury impact like your initial approach to fitness, and what motivated you to push through like those initial challenges? Like honestly, I want to take me to the scene of the first day that you walked into the gym. Like
Well, the first day I walked into the gym, people lost it. I lie now. So whenever I initially got into the gym, I felt super duper self-conscious and like hated what was going on. I was looking at a fat pudgy kid with skinny legs, skinny arms. I would wear, my little small t-shirts, and my noodle arms would be so freaking baggy with them, or like the shirt would be baggy on me. So I hated what was going on, and I had all kind of excuses. I was like, oh, I can't get on this machine, or oh, I can't do this type of workout. That muscle doesn't work. But through continuously trying and seeing, the small efforts as they come, it motivated me more and more and more to continue and to continue trying to adapt. And I had to adapt because literally everything in almost every gym I've been to is not adapted. So as a wheelchair athlete or someone in a wheelchair wanting to improve their quality of life through fitness, it's no other option but to figure out how to overcome whatever obstacle in your own way. So I was extremely blessed to have my buddy Nathan, who's a paralyzed bodybuilder, being alongside me, because this entire time I started off with a really good foundation through him. He was able to kind of coach me in a sense. Like he would show me how he adapts on workouts, and okay, this is what I have to use to brace my back or to balance or get a belt to tie on to the weight bench, things like that completely changed what was happening. Because being that I don't have feeling or any control at that point below my injury, which is about my nipple level, getting on even just a bench to do arm workouts was super scary, because it's getting out of my wheelchair. Like, they just taught me how to get comfortable in this wheelchair. Now you want me out of it.
Yeah.
So it was extremely intimidating and scary. But he taught me that through continuously going up to my fears, facing them, and overcoming them, you build confidence. Mm-hmm. So it's like through continuously going and doing my same dedicated workout that we programmed, I would have to get uncomfortable. I'd have to get on machines that I didn't like, or, ooh, this made my muscle hurt. Like, good, that's what it's supposed to do. And he taught me all about form, tempo. So I started with a really good head start. And once I really got into the groove of it, fell in love with the culture and the mindset around me, and was able to adapt to these machines, guess what? I started finding new machines and making more progress. So I continuously kept finding my bounds, or I kept trying to find my limits and push them, because especially at this time, like, I was super weak, super small and frail. So being that my goal was to walk, physical therapy was extremely tough. I mean, we would try to get in braces where I would have, metal, almost a cage looking, all the way up to my chest. And it was super hard because I'm already struggling. I'm already struggling to try to hold my body weight, to do a dip, like if you were on some parallel bars with the 120 pounds on noodle arms, really hard. So between that and not having any type of strength coming out of my legs, it was just an additional 10 pounds of braces. Mm-hmm. So that only made it harder. But with help, I was able to say, okay, well, I'd go to therapy and say, man, my arms gave out. I wasn't able to stand but 5 minutes. Okay, cool. We're going to do these arm workouts. Oh, man, my endurance sucks because I'm walking a little bit longer, but now I get winded. Okay, so we're going to do this workout. It was really cool to see not only how the variables in training can change your outcome, and it kind of also taught me how variables in your life changing can change the outcome. So that's one of a few of my things I've picked up along that part of my journey. And as I just pursued on, you learn more, you meet more people. And it really helped or kind of forced me to get out of my comfort zone in a sense. Like if I didn't want to talk to somebody, but they had a killer physique, there was my conversation. So I, always go up to the biggest, scariest, ripped up person. And I'm like, hey, how'd you do that? Because I want to know, regardless what gear or what training you do or what it is, I'm curious. I want to know. And then at this stage, I'm still learning about fitness and our body's anatomy. So I'm researching. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's doing this. Oh, wow, that's cool. Okay, this type of workout. Oh, okay, cool. Bring it back to Nathan. He'd say, okay, yeah, that's a good workout. Okay, this is how I can modify it, X, Y, and Z. So it was a huge game changer. And then through doing that so long, I was able to start being able to adapt on not only my own workouts and with the new machines and just trying new things, but now I'm able to help, the next person. My buddy Don Michael comes to work out with me sometimes. He has a neurological condition, so now he's in a wheelchair at the moment. And it's almost like I feel like Nathan was for me at the beginning of my journey, that I'm able to do that for Don Michael. So it's really cool just to see how life comes back around. It's really fulfilling. And I don't know, it just makes me, it's one of those pieces to the puzzle that help give me peace in knowing I'm not crazy. I'm on a right path, or I'm on the right path. I'm on a path. We're going. Bust it right.
Something that you said. Oh, were you still talking? Sorry.
I don't know, what was that?
Were you?
Summed it up. Cool. Run it.
Something that you said about starting and how you went in that first day and just like felt so uncomfortable and just out of place. That's not something that, that's something that everybody feels, especially like women. And I think that you going, even despite what you, like your physical limitations, that is huge. And that shows that we can all do it. And even I know for me, I really struggle with gym anxiety. And I don't know, did you struggle with gym anxiety going into that first day? Or were you just feeling okay, I'm here, I'm just rolling in? What was that like?
Oh, I was super anxious. My anxiety had gotten, I guess, really, really intense after the chair because of the body dysmorphia and just the discomfort. So thankfully, with my friend group that would come and train with me, they were just really supportive, super motivational, and they were able to help assist. If I need a bench moved or some weights over, it just made the whole process a lot easier. Mm-hmm. But for me to overcome my anxiety, I found that the training sessions without my friends were the most beneficial by far, because now it forced me to get out of that comfort zone that I was in. It's regardless if I knew this person or want to talk to him or didn't, well, if I need that weight or if I need this bench out of my way or whatever it is, kind of it gave me no other option than to get uncomfortable and say, hey, excuse me, and of course do it politely in between sets, or if they're checking their music or something. Hey, do you mind helping me real quick? And doing that really showed me the good in society and how it's still there. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen off machines trying to get out of my wheelchair or whatever and try a new machine, new workout, and completely bust my butt. And I've just had a freaking swarm of people run up to me and help pick me up. And at first, it was actually even worse. That made it more discouraging and more upsetting, being that, wow, not only can I not get into this thing, but I fell and can't get back up, and people are watching enough to, I've had people, as soon as I hit the ground, they're like, hey, man, you good? I'm like, bro, why were you watching me? That's why I feel like I need freaking stage fright.
Yeah, it's just feeling like people are constantly feeling sorry for you.
Exactly, and I hate the pity party. That is my enemy. The pity party is my enemy. So
slay your enemies.
It was I hated that the people were already looking, and I didn't necessarily feel sympathy from other people, but it was kind of, it was an unspoken vibe. Didn't like the elephant in the room, so I became the gorilla in the room. And when somebody came up to me in one of the gyms one day, and they're like, bro, what you do, people are going to watch you. They're curious. It's a guy in a wheelchair doing all this crazy stuff. And so I figured, okay, well, if y'all want to show, you got one. And honestly, it's leveled up my life. And I don't necessarily do it for the approval or disapproval of anyone around me, but continuously doing that, it helps my self-esteem, my ego, I guess. For example, as I got strong enough in my back, I started to do pull-ups. And as soon as I got strong enough to, I'm cranking out a good bit. At first, it was super sketchy. I'd have friends, move the chair back and we'd tie ropes up to the thing and I'd try to climb. They'd help pick me up. And it was so freaking sketch. People around us were like, hey, y'all good? And we're just like, mind your business. But it started to draw a crowd, and especially at Planet Fitness. They're like, that guy just climb out of a wheelchair and do a pull-up. And
No judgment.
It freaking aired up my head. I was like, oh, yeah. Well, look, now I'm as high as y'all, well, higher than y'all. I can see everything from on top of this jungle. Because another thing that the wheelchair really did psychologically, it knocked me down because I'm going from 6 foot to 4 foot. I felt like this world down here sucks. I'm like,
welcome to my world.
Point of view is ass, literally.
yeah, it is. Yeah, they have whenever people who are like 6'3" look down at me, I'm like, don't
judge my shortness.
Don't look at my forehead. Don't look at the back of my head either.
And that's kind of what started to teach me about perspective because, even though I'd gotten knocked down in life, I was able to pull myself up and high enough to see what was the horizon. And through that, continuously doing my pull-ups, that was the first compound exercise, I guess, that I started to see rehabilitation gains from it. So, as your back gets stronger, not only is that crucial for core and balance, but especially for someone paralyzed with no feeling or anything in their abs, being that I was getting my back strong enough, I was able to manipulate my abs to do exercises that would engage my core. It didn't have a choice. I put my body in a fight or flight state, and it's either going to fall or fly, and I've fallen a lot of times. So that's another one of those life lessons, You'll never know what it's like to fly if you never take the leap of faith, and that's kind of what you have to do on yourself in every which way, regardless if it's big or small to you, it could make a major impact.
Yeah, the fight or flight, that just like that's me. I've been in fight or flight since like the 5th grade.
Mood.
Because whenever, just a little psychology for my little fun people who like psychology, because I do. Whenever you're in fight or flight, you are releasing cortisol, which is the stress hormone in your body. And if you promote or produce too much of it, you can go into a state of fight or flight. And that's where you just feel this constant, like, there's this trigger. My therapist explained it to me one time. There's this you have this alert in your brain, and there's this other alert. And every single time that you hear a sound, pretend like you're hearing a sound in a trash can, and the trash can is being hit. The alert makes you freak out, but then in a normal person brain, your alert is okay, it was just a trash can being hit. It wasn't a burglar or something. But for somebody who is living in the state of fight or flight, you hear that sound and you're still tense. And for me, that's I feel still tense. So if something happened just in my regular life, I would still be in that state of escape it. And that was something that was really hard for me. So whenever you said that, I just really resonated with that. And I don't know if that was relevant to our conversation.
Oh, for sure. Because I find with fight or flight, that's definitely how I started. My mentality towards it, I was more of I was scared. Obviously, with the new body, I guess I had to pick my battles wisely. But using my fight or flight to actually gain strength has been my superpower. In a physical sense, my fight or flight reaction was, if I put too much weight on my legs in a certain movement, or make it, if I would get on the leg machine and do a certain movement, it would get my legs to respond and get that initial reaction. So I was like, okay, fight or flight. So I would continuously do that. And after my stem cell procedures and going to the gym consistently, doing that, I started to draw the connection and be able to kick out my legs, which was literally just me throwing my body into a spasm. And so I was using that fight or flight, and we built up enough strength until whenever I started standing, that's all standing has been. It's been that for a while, because I knew for a fact my legs kind of shoddy. They might not work. So I got my upper body and everything strong enough to where it didn't matter if it worked or not. I was able to handle the weight regardless. So being able to do that has helped a ton with, the recovery and the process. But I find, in fight or flight, I'm a gorilla, not a bird. So whatever that tells you.
The thing that I want to go back to that you just said that I think healed part of my inner child was whenever you said using my fight or flight was my superpower. And for me, I've always seen it as because I didn't know what this meant for the longest time. I always just felt so confused about the way that my mind works differently from others, because some people don't struggle with anxiety, and like I don't think they realize how blessed you are to not have to feel that like sense of that alert, that physical manifestation of like feeling tense. And for me, that manifests itself like in my throat and in my chest, and like I just feel physical tightness in my chest. So whenever you said like you were able to like see that as something good and like use it to your benefit, was just like really inspiring to me. And I think your story is like just the physical representation of like what we all go through whenever we are scared to go to the gym. But like your story makes me feel like we should all go, like no excuses, because literally if you can do it, who can't?
Correct. And honestly, well, actually, just recently, I had gotten a nice reminder of that. Life likes to check me every so often. And as I
Same.
found myself starting to create more excuses through my habits and diet, my habits and routine nowadays, I was offered an invitation to go out to the Adaptive Training Foundation, where it's literally a gym of no excuses. You get the feeling as soon as you hit the atmosphere, because I trained alongside people with one arm missing, one leg missing. One guy was dead for 20 minutes working out next to me. One guy broke his neck and was a quadriplegic throwing sandbags. I had no freaking choice but to nut up or shut up. And so I shut up and I was like, I hate this, but they're not going to punk me out. It brought me back to a state of being the runt of the litter. And I don't like that, because over here, I'm like, I feel like I'm big dog. So over there, they're like, no, you ain't shit. So they didn't say that, but that's what it was a feeling of. So what did it do? Made me uncomfortable, got out of my comfort zone, got stronger, not only physically, but mentally. It was a crazy boost. It refilled my cup for sure.
In my last episode, I talked about being like growing where you're planted. And I feel like me and Callie really hit on how it's important to, like, we talked about, she went to the mountains and like rediscovered this whole version of herself. I went to Destin and I was like the happiest ever. And then I was like, came back here and I was like, fuck. Like, oh my God, I'm back in Lafayette, Louisiana. Like, that sucks. And did you feel like you were able to bring like what you learned with you at, what is it called?
ATF, adaptive.
Do you feel like you were able to bring like what you learned with you back here? Or do you feel like that version of yourself only was existing like within that realm of
as I once was told? It not only lit a new fire under my ass, it showed me resources are out here. The art is out here. You just have to structure it and put in the effort. And I mean, all I have to offer is my heart and my effort, and that's what I'm gonna give. So just after I came down with a real bad bed sore, it completely stopped me dead in my tracks. I went from being super disciplined to got off track, got out of my good habits I'd built, and I wasn't necessarily happy with that. I mean, I knew and I still know that I have immense potential, but I have to do something with it. I can't just keep talking about all these awesome things I want to do or these goals. I have to put some effort and some structure into it. So I've been blessed with the ability to be around those, like the guys in my Bible study. They're all not on the same track as me, but in one way or another, they all have a tool that they're like, hey, I learned this along my way. I learned this. So being around business-minded entrepreneurs and just people who have had to grit and, and had to get it out of the mud in some way or another, it's really, it helps guide me in the structuring process, because I don't come from a business background. I don't come from a therapy background. I literally went to school to draw on a computer. I do not know anything about recovery, but what I do, if I go to the gym and break down, or if I can work on something that I'm weak at 100 times, chances are pretty high I'm going to get better. So I have just been running with that.
How did being in a wheelchair for the past 7 years affect your masculinity?
At first, my masculinity took a ginormous hit, because I feel like as a man, you have to be able to not only protect but provide. Now I needed to be protected and I needed to be provided for, and I didn't like that, because I was just starting to get on my feet and start to build that fortitude, I guess. So At first, it was extremely, I don't know, just gross. It was like, ugh, what is this? I felt like a child. I felt like a man child for sure for a hot minute. And through constantly facing the mirror and redefining how I decide disability has completely changed me as a man. It's taught me a lot about life, a lot about effort, a lot about so many things that I feel like I'll need to be able to guide and lead a family or whatever it is down the road. So I'm actually more appreciative of being in this wheelchair at the moment than if I would have never gotten in the wreck. If I would have never been paralyzed, who knows where I'd be. I mean, I was planning on moving to Florida, working on motorcycles, doing whatever other kind of truck. So I'm really appreciative that God kind of stopped me in my tracks and redirected the way. So honestly, I'm thankful for the wheelchair.
In a way, like, did the wheelchair alter your perspective of life? Like, what perspective did this give you?
Evolution requires effort, not excuses. The only way you're going to grow is to break down and to build back up. The best thing about rock bottom is it's only up. And you see how much you don't like it you don't like it at your lowest state. So guess what? All you want to do is, for me at the time, or for the longest time, it was I wanted to get back Sam I was, 17-year-old Sam, living life, having fun. On the journey there, I'm going to end up a better guy than that kid ever was. So, yeah, be appreciative of where you are in life. You got to really stop and smell the roses. Like, life is not promised to one. I woke up to a completely new reality. So don't take it for it. You're not owed to make it home or make it to your gym appointment or whatever. So always be appreciative of where you're at and where you get to go. And I like to use the word like to go so much because, man, I got to go to the gym. I got to go to work. No, I get to go to the gym. I get to go to work has completely changed the way my effort has been, my output, I guess. Because instead of looking at it as a chore, it was a privilege for me. I mean, there was times I was locked in a hospital bed with no option but to sit there and get poked on and prodded or whatever for however long they needed. Now, if I could wake up, put on my shoes, and hop in an old Cadillac and go to the gym, you better believe it. I don't care what time it is. If I'm up at 1 o'clock in the morning, wide awake, guess what? I shower and shower, shave, go to the gym, do whatever. Like, I'm starting my day. Because another thing I've learned is time is so valuable and precious, but remember, it's only worth what you're towards. Mm-hmm. So for me, not being happy or satisfied with the way I was living, the feeling, the thoughts, I didn't like my life, I just reconstructed it. I started on and look at what are my weak points? What do I suck at? What do I hate about me? What does Sam hate about Sam? So I had to face those hard truths, have that conversation with myself over and over again. So I can now identify my weak points and make a new plan of action. So another thing I learned is another thing I picked up is to become eager for, I'll always fail forward because I didn't lose. I learned what worked and what didn't work. I learned what I can and can't do. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. It means that's the bar. I have to raise it. So with that, now I could adjust and look at my life and say, okay, I'm lacking in business. So I'm learning about business. I'm learning about marketing. I'm learning about all these things that before, when I was first started all this, I knew I didn't want to do any of that. I was like, I just want to be a shot caller, big baller. It doesn't work like that, kids. Stay in school if you think it does. So I had to freaking go out, fall on my face. But now that I have my time, energy, and heart invested in something, guess what? I had to follow through. And
so switching gears a little bit, kind of wanting to dive deeper. What was dating like for you, or has been like for you?
So dating initially was super intimidating because, like I said earlier, I was not comfortable with my body, with my circumstances, with anything in my life. But through continuously going to the gym and when I was working there, I guess, struck some attention. And so a lady had come out whenever she was leaving me, and she invited me to a Sunday service with her to join her and her family at church. So I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And we just kind of hit it off, went to a couple lunches, dinners, whatever you want to call it. And that really, it proved to me that the way I feel and think about my body might not be reflecting the same from others, because she showed me that, okay, well, beautiful women still are attractive. And I didn't really know what else to do with it at the time. I knew I wasn't in a place to be in that kind of relationship, so I just didn't really pursue it too hard. Following that, I had a really cool, I guess one of my first loves, I guess I call it, we, well, I helped guide her at the beginning of her fitness journey. My passion for that, for helping guide, and I'm no expert. I just kind of showed her what worked for me, what didn't, helped her build healthy habits, like we were up and doing stuff like that, kind of working as a team unit and able to help kind of kickstart her fitness journey. I was also able to help apply the things I'm learning in the gym mindset wise, with getting jobs. Like she was at a dead end job. She didn't like it. She was super passionate about animals. So I'm like, dude, go work as a vet. And she's like, I got to go to school. So I was like, okay, what can you do at a vet that doesn't require school? So we figured out how to get a vet tech, started making the applications, whatever. And we would just drive around town, dropping them off. And even whenever people weren't hiring, they were just like, okay, well, behold it. But and it would be a kick in the dirt to her. But I was like, nope, on to the next one. And we go to the next one until she finally got someone to say, okay, well, yeah, we'll pass whatever, pass it on, and ended up calling her back for a second interview. And my thought process to that is just like, do the things that are hard while, regardless of what they feel like. I've had to do it countless times throughout my journey. So it was a nice way to show her like, hey, if you continuously go out and get through the uncomfortable, you learn new skills. You learn new traits, new abilities, new tools. I was also able to see what it's like to live co-independently with a counterpart, and it was really cool to start seeing the insights of like, how do I keep up a household? How do I set expectations? How do I follow my own expectations? It was a really cool way to learn that like moving as a unit is possible. And if done right, you could do a lot with it. She helped me through a lot of stuff. And it was a huge relief to me to be able to relieve the burden off of my family in some ways. In a sense, like she would come pick me up when she gets off of work. She'd come work out. Boom, I'm getting off work. We would leave. So doing things just like that and helping with the cooking and grocery shopping made my life easier. And we were just able to move more efficiently. So it taught me a lot about efficiency and the way that you can kind of utilize your teammates for what they're best at, And then following, it wasn't as serious a relationship, but like my most recent relationship, I feel like I learned a lot about myself. It was kind of like a reality check. It was like pointing out some of the internal things that I had to work on that I was kind of ignoring, as in like my masculinity, because I'm like, for a while I've been fighting, it's like, how can I even have a family? How can I even think about these thoughts starting one when I can't even take care of my own problems? But it showed me that, okay, right, bring it back to the correct unit, the good teammate. Now you can get a lot more pull, a lot more push. So I think it's definitely helped shape my mindset and give me a new perspective on that.
What like mindset shifts have you had through your failed relationships? Get more in depth with that.
So through the failures, it was you learn what you shouldn't do again. For instance, with one thing, for this is really that I'm just figuring out how to overcome. It's like I wasn't comfortable with my body, with myself, with what was going on. That I was so insecure, and I would always accuse, and I would just let my own thoughts make this person evil, paint a whole different picture of this girl that I had never seen. I don't like it. I really don't want to be a part of it, and it's like it kind of sucks. I've seen things that's just like something little small, okay, you like so-and-so's picture, and then I throw myself down a loophole and ruin something that could have been good. Maybe it's a learning curve. Another thing, it's like I learned the repercussions of my actions because it's so real, it's especially when you're living with the person. For instance, I can't set a standard that I can't hold. If I'm asking you to clean the dishes every time you use one, guess what? I got to do it too. So it's cool for accountability. It definitely helps having that person to keep you accountable, keep you in check. And it definitely helps create a structure much easier because if I know you're counting on me to carry a little bit of the load, you got to be able to carry a little bit of the load. It taught me a lot about that kind of dynamic for sure.
Going back to something that you said that kind of struck a chord with me, self-sabotage, something that I think a lot of us Gen Zers, we all struggle with that. Can you go like more in depth about your experiences with like sabotaging something that could have been good for you?
I've done it time after time again. I think for me, a lot of my biggest self-sabotages are all based from fear. It's a fear or insecurity of not being able to do something, but it's more than likely something you haven't tried or you might suck at. But instead of continuously being bad at it to get better, people tend to just find a new route. And in a lot of circumstances in life, you just don't have that option. It's for me, it's really helped me put a do or die perspective on a lot of things I do, in a sense that if I make my internal repercussions way harder than they might actually be, the world's not going to end if I didn't wash this cup after I used it, but it would completely go against my moral code. It would go against the grain inside me internally. And that's what ultimately keeps those good habits that you're trying to build, keeps them around. So honestly, I would say you have to use that fear to move you in the direction you want to go. So you're either running from something or you're running to something. But at the end of the day, if the destination is the same, what's the difference? So for me, I'm running away from my problems, from my paralysis, the pain, and the physical problems and limitations. But in reality, the fully recovered Sam that I'm chasing is not even there yet. You know, it's a figment of my imagination, but I've been able to use that figment to create my reality. And the more I'm doing this, the more I'm practicing it, the more I see proof to give me undoubtable faith. That's really strengthened my faith too. And I've learned lately, past few months, the power of my words, the power of writing my thoughts. So write your thoughts, write what you don't like about yourself. What can't you do? What do you suck at? Double down on those. Watch the person you become in 6 months, in a year. And I mean, it's going to suck at first, but you know, you got to learn how to take the hits before you can dodge them and give them back. And learning how to be able to dodge those hits in life really helps just the longevity of your journey.
Something that else that you just said that I thought was interesting, that I think we all also can relate to, chasing that person that we want to be. I feel like in my personal experience, I have chased, like I've mentioned in the podcast, I was afraid to start this podcast because I felt like I wasn't the person I was ready to be.
Makes sense.
And I think at that time, I was afraid to just let go of other people's expectations for myself. And with that, you talking about like being the future Sam and how you're able to just be who you are now and just like be in the present moment. I think I like commend you on that, because I think that's like really inspirational on so many counts.
Thank you. It's kind of one of those accidental things. I think the craziest thing about inspiration is it's usually always accidental. No one, I mean, I don't set out every day to be like, I'm going to inspire 3 people, because it's just not a measurable thing. It's something like you just have to go through those battles and be able to come out the other side a different person. And people around you that you might not even know are taking inspiration from that, from seeing you fight and persevere and get forward or move closer to your goal. It just subliminally motivates everyone around you. You see what I did with unprofessional? Me, the CEO. Who the fuck decided to let me be an adult? I make decisions.
So going back to the questions, what limitations did you have in relationships with your disability?
I definitely think the physical aspect is a big one, especially whenever I was earlier on in my recovery journey. I was really weak and frail, so it's really degrading like to your manhood to have a woman kind of carry the load. Like, for instance, if you're going grocery shopping, having to grab the case of water. Like, to her, she doesn't think about it twice, but to me, it's like a kick in the nuts.
Sorry.
No, it's real shit. It's just the simple things like that where I think more there are small physical gestures, but it really impacted the way my mentality was. And that constant kick really just, it broke down my manhood enough to make me have to figure out, like, who am I? What is it, man? Because like, actually, a therapist had asked me this. My SCAR therapist, she had said, "What is your like definition of a man?" And
I was literally just writing that question down. You beat me to it.
She asked me that, and I said to be able to protect and serve and lead the family that he's creating, or whatever legacy he's building. And I didn't know how to do it. Like, alongside, I still don't. I'm learning and I'm understanding, like, okay, make an outline. Here's my goal. How do I get there? Work from the goal backwards. And that's what I've been doing lately. And I find that around strong leadership, it's so much quicker. Like, my content journey and my gym journey. Yeah, always remember to stay humble when asking others for advice or guidance, because, not everyone's right. You don't have to take everyone's advice, but it doesn't hurt to just get an extra insight, an extra eyeball, an extra person who's already had to take the hits, because, oh my God, it has helped speed up every process I've found, business, rehab, strength, everything. They're like, hey, I failed doing this. Try it differently, or good luck. I think, like I said earlier, my true definition of a man is a savage servant, is to be able to protect and provide and lead his family. So as I'm learning to lead, I'm getting strong enough, getting bowed up, and I'm learning combos to handle myself and my little ducklings following behind, or the little chimpanzees, or the little baby gorillas.
Yeah, you have in your Boston accent right now.
Oh, my bad. Hey, good call.
Next question. Going off of what you just said, you were talking about the physical limitations. We've touched a lot upon this whole episode about physical things. I want to know, how have you grown mentally? We've talked about how you are trying, as a man, you want to protect your family physically, and you've touched upon that. But with the physical comes the subconscious, comes the mental, comes all of those things. Like, how are you currently trying to protect how are you trying to grow? You know what I'm trying to say?
Definitely.
I don't know. I forgot the word I was trying to say, but I didn't write it down.
To strengthen my faith. So for the longest, I spent all this time, energy, effort trying to rebuild my body. And then I didn't have an option, but I had to start building my mental. And it came to a point where I was realizing I'm not lacking really either of those. It's more of my spiritual strength, my knowledge, my understanding, because how the grand picture, the grand scheme of things works, I find a lot of comfort in that. And I find that if I would have gotten into the right Bible study or the right crowd sooner, I think I would have already had a much farther leap than I'm at. But starting to understand and solidify my spiritual strength has helped me so much. In a lot of it, I think, is based off faith. Because if I have faith in a bigger or better than me in such a crazy, impossible journey I'm on, to raise a kid couldn't be that hard. To change a diaper couldn't be that hard. It's going to take a lot of strength to hold that weight, that responsibility of another being. But that's what the gym's been for. That's what everything else has been for, is to build myself up into some kind of superhero to save myself. And I figure after that point, the family won't be nearly as hard as any of this was or has been.
What's been the most profound experience you've had thus far within your faith journey within the past 6 months?
It's starting to understand and break down some of the Bible verses and understandings. Like last night, we kind of talked about the accountability and how we have to bury the weight of our own crosses. Mm-hmm. And we kind of broke that down. And I've been thinking about it a lot lately. So it's so weird that Brian brought it up. Shout out to Brian.
Shout out, Brian.
I don't know. I think that's what's been getting me on this really big structure kick. It's because I have to be able to have accountability in order for me to grow. But I also have to be able to chart what I'm doing and seeing it and looking at the ins and outs of it. So I really find that with the weight of my crosses, I can find the answers for all of them in a sense that I know why they're lacking. It's because my energy was directed to something I was kind of good at. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. This sucks. Like, learning and feeling like the new kid and just being lost. Mm-hmm. But having those around me that are able to help guide me and lead me in a way that they see has helped them tremendously. It's really cool. And it's been it's supercharged my recovery, I think, because now that I have faith in something like this, the walking's not so crazy. The being able to rebuild your mind and mentality, not that crazy. There's a lot crazier things that are unexplained. So the explanation is up to you, but I know where mine comes from. To bear the weight of our own crosses. And for me, it's really things that I'd previously blamed on my disability or my circumstances. But eternally, I know what it's from. It's from the lack of effort. And I have been thinking about it so much because I know where my lacks are. I know what numbers don't look right. I know what I don't like to see. But I have the choice. I get the chance to take a choice. So what am I going to do? Reset, draw out the plan, and try to follow it. See what works, see what doesn't, and improve from there.
My journey is obviously different from yours, but something that I recognize a parallel between the two of us is I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life for the longest time, and I still don't know the exact trajectory that my life is going in. But I do know that whatever direction it goes, it's going to be a good one because I just trust in God's plan for me. And I feel like that's something that you also are speaking. You may not have vocalized, said, I'm trusting in God's plan for me, but like I'm seeing that.
That's what it boils down to.
Like I'm seeing that within your walk, your journey. And I think that's just, no matter like what I end up doing, I can rest in the fact that I know that
it's possible.
Whatever I'm doing is God's will for me.
Yeah, and something I figured early on is to trust my struggle. With trusting my struggle, that to me meant trusting the weight that was put upon me in order to build and grow. But in reality, it created pointed out something that was already in me. I think it's in a lot of us. I think it's all of us. It's just to have the faith gives me the strength that some people look at and are not sure where it comes from. Yeah. For the longest, the reason I started my company, InnerAnimal, is because when people would ask me, what's your driving force? How do you continue to push on with no result?
What's your word for 2024? If you had to
What's my word?
Yeah, my word is cultivate, because I want to cultivate opportunities for myself in whatever way that can be in 2024, because the best things that happened for me in 2023 were all things that I created myself, like this podcast, going to live at the beach. Those were all opportunities that I cultivated for myself. My mom's word is see, because she wants to see things in a different perspective, different light. So just kind of like, what word do you want to... It's kind of a hard question.
Because I plan to fully prove that the impossible can be possible with the right mindset, mentality, and work ethic. So regardless of what that looks like on my end, on my journey, on my side, I just hope to be able to positively impact and reflect the way that I think this journey is meant to be, especially with learning all the stuff I did at ATF and learning the resources available for people in similar situations that have been in that helpless, hopeless road. I truly think that my calling is to create enough strength in myself to figure this out. And I mean, if I'm strong enough to do it already for one, I want to try to help the next. And it's because it's so pitiful to see how people with major disabilities, major life-altering ailments get treated by insurance, by whatever. And all of our medical equipment, wheelchairs, walkers, things are expensive. So I hope to build my content or build my platform in order to help use it as a resource hub. I want to be able to find, okay, well, these practices worked for me. This type of walker worked for me. It would be my impact back to the community that's helped me so much, because I feel like, especially in Louisiana, we're lacking so many resources that are readily available. They're out there. Proven awesome things are happening, and miracles are happening, and people or companies don't want to recognize it. So I fully plan to make my first big step, starting my nonprofit organization and this podcast, my boost in work ethic and structure. We're going to put InnerAnimal on the map. We're going to change impossible to I'm possible. That's my goal for this year. What impact do you want to start making on your journey? Whether that's your content, your personal life, your fitness life. What's your eye? What prize is your eye on, I guess, for this growing season?
For me, I've always just wanted to help people ever since I was like the smallest child. I have a nurturing heart, and so I just want to give to people, but also realize whenever it's time to put boundaries up and like remember that in order to give to others, I still need to give to myself, because for the longest time I was a chronic people pleaser, and I'm still trying to undo that way that I used to behave, I guess, because doing that is constantly saying yes to other people, and it's draining. And I think I just want to be able to say yes and give to others, but also remember that it's okay to give to myself too, because at the end of the day, all you have truly is yourself and God, because everyone in your life will disappoint you no matter what. Your boyfriend's going to disappoint you. Your mom's going to disappoint you. Your brother, your dad, everyone. Because we set these expectations for everyone in our life. And then whenever they don't meet up to the standards that we put, we become disappointed. And I do that. I know this. I'm very self-aware. So I recognize that I do these, not vices, but these
coping mechanisms.
Yeah, like I do those things. So I think my biggest goal for 2024 is to be able to give to others as much as I can give to myself. All the love that I have wanted from other people, I also want to pour that back into myself.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's another thing I just recently learned. Relationship on that topic. Like, if you can't love yourself, how do you expect someone else to love you? If you can't physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever you need, whatever you're lacking, if you can't pour that into yourself, how do you expect to pour that in others?
Exactly.
How can you believe in anything if you can't see what your possibilities are, if you just believe your potential is nothing? It's all about your perspective. It's all about the way you look at things. It's not, oh, I can't do this. It's how can I do this? And if you stick with that mindset and attitude towards any obstacle you're going to face, I guarantee it'll help. I know it's helped me a ton. So
yeah, instead of like, how do I do this? I get to do this, and look at it, reframe your perspective. Not trying to like preach or anything, but I think that is what I need to work on for myself, at least. But thank you, Sam, so much for coming on. You really are a light in this world of freaking mud. I don't know.
it's a crazy world. It's an evil world, wicked world. But
yeah, but thank you, Sam, so much for coming on. And you'll definitely see Sam again because we are making a series. Stay tuned for more topics. We are taking requests, so leave that. I will leave a poll.
please drop some comments on whatever you'd want to hear from us next. Topic ideas, questions, concerns. So thanks for tuning in and listening to us ramble about life and its awesomeness. Have a blessed one, baby.
Don't hang up. So with that, we're going to stay sexy, stay savage, and stay tuned for another. Okay. Stay sexy, stay savage, and stay tuned for another episode of What the Elle every Friday. And feed inner animals.
And be on the lookout for InnerAnimal episodes.
Yeah. Bye. Love you. Bye.